AEW broadcast partner Warner Bros. Discovery announces they are rebranding truTV as TNT Sports. Is this a positive sign for AEW and Ring of Honor in the upcoming media rights discussions? Britt Baker returns from her suspension this week on AEW Dynamite and cuts a promo on TBS champion Mercedes Moné. Bryan Danielson defeats Jeff Jarrett and comes face-to-face with AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland straight after. Speaking of straight after, Hangman Adam Page attacks Jeff Jarrett after the show goes off the air. A casino gauntlet match with the winner receiving a guaranteed AEW World title opportunity is announced for AEW All In at Wembley Stadium. A #1 contenders match for the AEW Trios Championship has also been announced for AEW Collision, with that title shot taking place at AEW All In. Hook returns on AEW Dynamite and holds up the FTW Championship, continuing his feud with Chris Jericho. The Doctor, involved in the Vince McMahon and WWE lawsuit, has filed for discovery against former WWE employee Janelle Grant. Kota Ibushi calls AEW home and assures a comeback with Kenny Omega. We have the ratings for WWE NXT The Great American Bash Week 2 on Sci-Fi this past Tuesday. Claudio Castagnoli talks about his upcoming appearances in CMLL, with a big announcement set for next week with a face-to-face confrontation with AEW Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada, and FTR replaced Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly after travel issues last night on AEW Dynamite. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with the latest when it comes to AEW, their negotiations with Warner Bros. Discovery, and possibly an interesting twist that could be perceived as good news for AEW and Ring of Honor. As AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery continue their negotiations surrounding AEW's future on WBD networks, the company has made an announcement that appears to be good news for the fledgling wrestling promotion. On WBD's Q2 earnings call on Wednesday, CEO David Zaslav announced a plan to rebrand truTV's primetime schedule as TNT Sports in October, according to Brian Steinberg. According to Fightful's Sean Rossap, the programming block is intended to be similar to the Adult Swim programming block on Cartoon Network, which is treated as a separate brand despite sharing a channel with Cartoon Network, in the same way as TNT Sports and truTV. This, coupled with AEW talents being a focal point in the advertisement for the upcoming TNT Overdrive program, likely spells good news for AEW. WBD, continuing in the sports programming world despite seemingly losing the NBA to Amazon Prime, means they'll likely need a sports-centric programming like AEW and even potentially Ring of Honor. AEW President Tony Khan has been publicly adamant throughout the negotiation process that Ring of Honor is an important part of AEW's portfolio, though there have been thus far no concrete plans to bring the streaming promotion to television. There have also been conflicting reports as to how dedicated WBD is in investing in the television side of things. Khan has described negotiations with Warner Bros. Discovery as complicated, but has maintained an upbeat attitude throughout the process, recently meeting with David Zaslav in Paris during the Olympics, about which Khan later tweeted very positively. The exclusive negotiation window with WBD recently expired, and AEW is free to entertain offers from competing networks unless a deal is announced in the coming days. So what are your thoughts when it comes to this? Could you see AEW and Ring of Honor going on to TNT Sports on truTV? Let me know your thoughts and reaction to that. How do you think Max is going to play into this as well from a streaming point of view? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Now let's get to last night's AEW Dynamite. And many were wondering if former AEW Women's World Champion Britt Baker would appear on the show after her suspension dominated the news media last week. Britt Baker returned to AEW from suspension, albeit via satellite video, to call out Mercedes Moné ahead of their TBS Championship match at All In at Wembley Stadium. Baker had previously been suspended following an alleged backstage confrontation with AEW American Champion MJF, but was always set to still challenge Moné after her short suspension concluded. That happened during AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, when following a Camille squash match, Moné got on the mic to run down Baker. Moné commended Camille for her victory in a 2-on-1 match, then started taking shots at Baker. She thanked the EVPs for suspending her All-In opponent, but Moné was then interrupted by Tony Schiavone, who has told her that AEW President Tony Khan had overrode the EVP's decision and rescinded Baker's suspension. Baker then appeared on the Jumbotron with a message of her own for Monet. Baker said she didn't believe Monet will stay in her company for long, especially after Baker captures the TBS Championship. Quote, "We all know the second things don't go your way, you take your ball and you go home," Baker said, referencing Monet leaving WWE when she was known as Sasha Banks. Quote, "You're not the future, let's get real. AEW is just the flavor of the month for you, where for me, AEW is home." Now, as of this recording, Baker is not yet confirmed to return to Dynamite in person next week. The two women will go head-to-head for the championship at AEW All In at London's Wembley Stadium on August 25th. Now, Bryan Danielson, he defeated Jeff Jarrett in a first-time encounter last night. On the August 7th edition of AEW Dynamite, Bryan Danielson faced off against Jeff Jarrett in an Anything Goes match. This match came as a result of Jeff Jarrett questioning Danielson's commitment to his current run in the company, citing that the American Dragon had already had one foot out of the door ahead of his retirement from the full-time aspect of wrestling. Danielson was able to pick up the victory in the bout, nailing Jarrett with a steel chair / Psycho knee combo after a fun match. After the match, AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland hit the ring. Strickland asked Danielson how he was feeling after facing Jarrett, noting that he'd feel even worse after facing him at All In. Strickland also said he plans on taking Danielson's legacy away from him at the event. Now, when it comes to Jeff Jarrett, it wasn't actually his only bit of physicality for the evening, because Hangman Adam Page attacked Jarrett backstage. Also, Mariah May brawled with Timeless Toni Storm too. Now, on the August 7th episode of AEW Dynamite, as I mentioned, Jeff Jarrett lost to Bryan Danielson in a hard-fought Anything Goes match. Elsewhere on the show, Mariah May defeated Viva Van. After the match, AEW Women's World Champion Toni Storm attacked her and they brawled. AEW announced that immediately following the show, there was an incident involving Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett backstage. Tony Khan then commented that the incident also involved Toni Storm and Mariah May. AEW then released the footage of the incident. Hangman Page attacked Jeff Jarrett backstage. Jay Lethal tried to stop him, and security held Page back. Meanwhile, Toni Storm and Mariah May showed up mid-brawl, and officials struggled to separate them. Eventually, everyone was separated. Now, Hangman Page previously attacked Jarrett during the Royal Rampage match on the July 26th episode of AEW Dynamite. They have been feuding since Jarrett was involved in Page's match against Bryan Danielson in the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Finals. Of course, Mariah May is set to challenge for Toni Storm's AEW Women's World Championship at All In after similarly winning the Owen. Now, speaking of All In, a Casino Gauntlet match has been announced for the upcoming Stadium show. All In 2024 is 2 weeks away, and the card for AEW's most highly anticipated international event is beginning to solidify. On Wednesday's edition of AEW Dynamite, another match was added, a Casino Gauntlet match with a guaranteed AEW World Championship opportunity in store for the winner. As of this recording, no participants for the bout have been announced. Casino Gauntlet matches, not to be confused with Casino Battle Royales, are multi-man matches in which wrestlers enter the ring in random time intervals. The first wrestler in the increasingly chaotic multi-man match to gain pinfall or submission at All In will be declared the winner and #1 contender for the AEW World Championship. There have only been 2 Casino Gauntlet matches in AEW's history, both won by Will Ospreay. Ospreay, however, is unlikely to continue his Casino Gauntlet match streak, as he is expected to fight against MJF for the AEW American Championship, formerly known as the AEW International Championship at Wembley Stadium. The AEW World Championship will be defended on the same night as the Casino Gauntlet match in the high-stakes title versus career match between Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson. Now, speaking of All In and title matches, we will soon know who's going to be the #1 contenders for the AEW World Trios Championships at All In. As AEW heads towards All In on August 25th, the company has begun fleshing out the non-main event matches, and now the future of the AEW World Trios Championship is a little bit more clear. New AEW World Trios Champion Christian Cage appeared on AEW Dynamite to announce that this week's edition of AEW Collision will feature a match between the Bang Bang Gang and the House of Black, with the winners going on to All In to face Cage, Killswitch and Nick Wayne at Wembley Stadium. Both teams are former World Trios champions, with the Bang Bang Gang being the previous champions before they were stripped of the titles following an injury to Jay White. The Patriarchy won the titles at the end of July on an episode of AEW Collision, defeating Bang Bang Gang's Austin Gunn, Colton Gunn and Juice Robinson in their first reign with the title. Hook is back on AEW television, making his return last night on Dynamite. Hook made his triumphant return to AEW Dynamite on Wednesday to come to the aid of Katsuyori Shibata, who was suffering a beatdown at the hands of the Learning Tree following a victory over Bad Apple Brian Keith. Hook, Shibata, and Samoa Joe, of course, have been feuding with the Learning Tree for weeks, following Chris Jericho's victory over the cold-hearted Handsome Devil to capture his FTW championship after the pair initially were a team. On the July 3rd Beach Break episode of AEW Dynamite, Chris Jericho injured Hook by launching a fireball at the young up-and-comer backstage after Keith blindsided Hook. Shibata's match with Keith was set up following the Beach Break backstage brawl, and after Shibata helped Minoru Suzuki fight off the Learning Tree after Suzuki lost to Jericho on the July 24th edition of the show, Shibata won by tapping out Keith with a cross arm breaker. Big Bill and Jericho blindsided him in the ring. Jericho looked to hit Shibata with his championship while Bill and Keith held him in place in the middle of the ring, but Hook's music hit and he ran down the ramp to help his friend. Hook sent Keith and Bill flying out of the ring and then delivered a beatdown to Jericho before throwing him out as well. The Learning Tree regrouped on the ramp and it looked to head back into the ring, but thought better of it and stared down Shibata and the newly returned Hook from the outside. Now, a bit more of an update when it comes to the ongoing lawsuit, the stay order, everything involved in Vince McMahon and the Janelle Grant lawsuit. Now, a judge has struck down Vince McMahon's motion to halt Janelle Grant's motion to get medical records from her former physician, Dr. Carlin Kolker, as the judge felt Grant's motion was not in violation of a recent stay order in the case. According to WrestleNomics and court documents, Dr. Kolker himself filed a petition against Grant's motion for discovery, as he and his attorneys described the motion as a smear campaign in the complaint. The complaint goes on to say that Grant's motion, as well as her claim that Kolker pushed back against her previous request to know what vitamins or combinations of vitamins he was prescribing, could defame Kolker and his practice, quote, continuing to have a devastating and potentially long-lasting effect on Kolker and Peak Wellness's ability to continue practicing at the high level which they have painstakingly earned, with monetary damages perhaps incalculable but well over tens of millions of dollars, end quote. Grant is seeking her medical records from her time under Dr. Kolker's care, as she claims not to know the substance of much of Kolker's treatments. Dr. Kolker treated Grant during her relationship with Vince McMahon. McMahon had hired Grant as a legal assistant and proceeded to allegedly subject Grant to sexual, physical, mental, and emotional abuse and torture, as well as allegations of sex trafficking involving former WWE Universal Champion Brock Lesnar. McMahon retired from all of his duties at TKO Group Holdings earlier this year, following news breaking of the suit and the serious nature of the allegations. Of course, we get any more details on the latest developments in that lawsuit or the latest developments when it comes to new filings, we'll let you know in an upcoming video. Now, Kota Ibushi, there's been a bit of confusion what's going on with Kota Ibushi at the moment, and he has now recently made it clear he's not leaving AEW and assured fans about his return with Kenny Omega. DDT Pro Wrestling announced that Kota Ibushi will be returning to the promotion and compete in a trios match soon. It will mark his first time competing for the promotion in 7 years. This led to fans to question whether he was done with All Elite Wrestling. One fan on social media raised doubt about Ibushi's status. The former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion labeled AEW as his home and dropped hints about making his comeback with Kenny Omega. Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega have been one of the most popular tag teams, known as the Golden Lovers. They have been the KOD Tag Team Champions, the KOD Six-Man Tag Team Champions, and the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. The former IWGP World Champion had been recuperating from an injury and missed almost a year of in-ring action. He made his return to the Squared Circle at GLEAT's event in Tokyo Dome City Hall, where he faced Daisuke Sekimoto. Kota Ibushi's last appearance for AEW took place on the November 15 edition of Dynamite last year. He joined forces with Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, and Paul White to defeat Brian Cage and the Don Callis family in an 8-person Like a Dragon street fight. Meanwhile, Kenny Omega has been away from AEW since December last year with diverticulitis. Earlier this year, the cleaner returned to Dynamite but was brutally attacked by Jack Perry and the Young Bucks to write him off television and subsequently undergo surgery. And we have the ratings for Tuesday's edition of NXT. Of course, it was the Great American Bash Week 2. Tuesday night's WWE NXT episode averaged 534,000 viewers on Sci-Fi, up 14% from last week. This was night 2 of the NXT Great American Bash 2024. Both episodes aired on Sci-Fi due to the USA Network's coverage of the Olympics. While this is NXT's second lowest audience total of 2024, it's the best viewership the show has ever done when being moved over to Sci-Fi. In addition to the 2 episodes episodes this year. NXT aired on Sci-Fi twice in 2021 and twice in 2022. NXT drew a 0.16 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic. That's up over 6% from last week and ties several other episodes for NXT's third lowest rating of the year in that category. It's also the best rating NXT has ever drawn on Sci-Fi 2. The show went head-to-head with the Olympic coverage on NBC, USA Network and Peacock. With the Olympics ending this weekend, NXT will be back to USA Network next Tuesday. As compared to the same week in 2023, NXT's overall viewership was down 31.2%, while its 18 to 49 rating was down 30.4%, but the comparison isn't obviously fair since that episode aired on the USA Network without the Olympic competition. Now, Claudio Castagnoli, he's going to be competing in Mexico, and he says he speaks Lucha Libre. As previously announced, Claudio Castagnoli is set to compete in the CMLL Grand Prix. This will mark his return to CMLL after he competed at the March 29th event, where he teamed up with Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Matt Sydal in a losing effort against Blue Panther, Mystico, Ultimo Guerrero, and Volador Jr. Claudio Castagnoli appeared on the August 7th edition of CMLL Informer, and he discussed competing in the CMLL Grand Prix. He said, quote, CMLL Claudio Castagnoli is coming back for the Grand Prix, representing Team World, representing AEW, representing Switzerland, representing the Blackpool Combat Club. I'm going to be real with you. Last year, I don't think it's been my best. I've been doubting myself. I've been unsure. Then I took a pilgrimage. I came to the Cathedral, Arena Mexico for the first time, and I saw the light. I saw the light. Now, I may not speak Spanish, but I do speak Lucha Libre, and I think it will do better than anybody else. I will prove it to you at the Grand Prix. You'll be eliminated. Now, when it comes to Claudio Castagnoli, he's also got an upcoming confrontation with AEW Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada. The new segment being announced for next week will feature Kazuchika Okada and Claudio Castagnoli coming face to face. This segment comes just days after Castagnoli earned the right to challenge for Okada's AEW Continental Championship. Could we see this match set up for AEW All In at Wembley Stadium? And finally, going into last night's AEW Dynamite, we had heard of travel issues that could potentially affect the show, and indeed they did. But we got a surprise appearance from former AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR. On the August 7 edition of AEW Dynamite, Renee Paquette informed Orange Cassidy that Kyle O'Reilly and Mark Briscoe would be missing their trios match due to travel issues. Cassidy insisted on going forward with the match, noting they found a couple of local boys to team with. Cassidy then came out with FTR, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler for the match against Roosh, the Beast Mortos and Roderick Strong. The trio ended up winning the match after hitting the Orange Punch / Shatter Machine combo on Roosh. This marked the first time that FTR has wrestled on AEW Dynamite since February 28, 2024. But there you go, guys. Latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.